I'm going to do some more examples of how to add fractions that have different denominators. All right, let's say we have 3/14 plus 5/12. We're trying to find the least common denominator of these fractions, so we have to figure out a number that 12 and 14 go into. So you need to find the least common multiple of 12 and 14, and you could use any method you want. I'm going to use this division method where I do this little bar here. So what goes into both 12 and 14? 2. 2 goes into 12 6 times, and 2 goes into 14 7, and now there's nothing else that goes into 6 and 7, right? All right, so our answer is either 12 times 7 or 14 times 6, or you could multiply the 2 times 6 times 7, whatever's easiest. That looks easiest to me because 6 times 7, I could get 42, and then times 2, I'm just going to double that. That's going to give me 84. So 84 is the least common denominator. So what did I have to multiply 12 to get 84, 12 by to get 84? Well, look over here, 12 times 7. So I multiply the top and bottom here by 7. So 5 times 7 is 35. All right, what do we have to multiply 14 times? Oh, look, catty corner, 14 times 6. 6 in both the numerator and denominator is going to give me 18. So now what I want to do is add those together, right? So I'm going to get 84s because now I have a common denominator. And 18 plus 35 is 53. And then you have to decide if you can reduce that or not. 53 is prime. So in this particular instance, you're not going to be able to reduce it. So my answer is 53 84ths. All right, how about 8 33rds plus 5 22nds? Now, when I'm working with fractions that have a denominator that's different, I usually leave a little space. So notice I'm kind of leaving a little space so that I can multiply the top and bottom by the same number. And this time, I wrote the fractions as if I was adding them horizontally. Remember, you might be given them in a horizontal position or in vertical. It really doesn't matter. But we need to get the least common denominator of 33 and 22. So let's see. There are several ways to figure out the least common denominator. I'm going to use this method. Can you think of a number that goes into 33 and 22? 11. 11 goes into 33 3 times, and it goes into 22 twice. So the least common denominator is 22 times 3, or 33 times 2. However you look at it, you're going to end up with 66. Now, if you couldn't think of a number that went into 33 and 22, remember you could do it by prime factorization. 33 is 3 times 11, and 22 is 2 times 11, and you build it up. So you start out with the factors of 33, 3 times 11, and then you also need the factors of 22, which is 2 times 11, but you already have a 2. you already have 11, so you need a 2. So there's another way to get 66 for your least common denominator, and then there's a lot of other ways. Those are a couple ways that I did in my videos. Okay, so what do I need to multiply 33 by to get 66? Well, 2, so I need to multiply the same number in the top and bottom. And what do I need to multiply 22 times? 3. So same number in the top and bottom. So see what happens if you kind of leave space between the plus sign here and you extend your fraction bar. It's kind of easy to do the equivalent fractions this way. So I've got 1666 plus 1566. And that's going to give me 3166. And that doesn't reduce. 31's prime. And so that's my final answer. All right, why don't you try 5/8 plus 7/10. Put the video on pause and try it all on your own. Okay, let's see. We need the least common denominator. And by the way, if you got something that's not the least common denominator, it'll work. It just means you're going to have to do more reducing at the end. So if you pick a bigger number that both numbers go into, not the smallest number that both numbers go into, you'll have to do more reducing at the end of the problem. All right, so let's see. What's the least common denominator? We have 8 and 10. What goes into both numbers? 2. So this is in case you didn't know it was 40. You'd use this method. 4 times 10 or 8 times 5 is 40. So I know that I could write them both with the denominator of 40. That's the common denominator, and in fact it's the least common denominator. And now what do I need to multiply the top and bottom by of this first fraction? 5. And the second fraction? 4. That gives me 40 in the denominator of each. So I will get 25 40ths plus 28 40ths. Now, the denominator, remember, you never add the denominators. You just write the denominator down and add the numerators. So that's 53. Okay, that's a perfectly fine answer, or you can write it as a mixed number, 1 and 13 40ths. Remember, by dividing, 40 goes into 53 one times, the remainder is 13, and you just write the denominator again. So mixed number or improper fraction. Here's a problem for you to try. Put the video on pause and try it. Okay, now notice I leave a little space here so I could extend my fraction bar. So it's easy to put in what I need to multiply numerator and denominator by. All right, so we've got 8 15ths plus 11 20ths. So I need to get the least common denominator of 15 and 20. So let's see. 5 go into both numbers. 5 goes into 15 3 times and into 24 times. So my least common denominator, 20 times 3 is 60, which is the same as 15 times 4. So 60 is my least common denominator. Okay, now what do I need to multiply 15 by to get 60? Just look over here. 15 times 4, see it's kitty corner. So 4 over 4, that's going to give a 32 60ths. And 20 times 3, right, is 60. So that's going to give you 33 60ths. Okay, so then what happens? I'm going to add my numerators. I get 65 60ths. Wow. This isn't reduced, and it's also an improper fraction. So you can either reduce it first and just leave it that way, or you could change it to a mixed number and reduce, or you can reduce it and then change it to a mixed number. This is pretty simple to change to a mixed number because it's easy to do 65 divided by 60. It goes in one time with 5 left over. So then I could just reduce 5 60ths. And 5 goes into both of those numbers because they end in 0 or 5. So if I divide the top by 5 and the bottom by 5, I have 1 and 1/12. Now, you could have just reduced the top and bottom from 65 60ths because 5 goes into both numbers, and that will give you 13/12, which is also the same thing as 1 and 1/12. So there's an example where we got a common denominator and then I had to reduce it at the end. And then I also could have changed it to a mixed number, but you do have to make sure at the very least you always reduce your answers. One more problem. All right, go for it. We're going to have to get the common denominator. I'm going to figure out the least common multiple of 20 and 12. And remember, you want to take the biggest number that goes into both of these, which is 4. But if not, you could pick a smaller number. So 2 goes into 12 and 2 goes into 20. But then you'd have to do it again. Remember, if you don't pick the biggest number the first time, look at your 2 numbers you get and then do it again if necessary. So the least common denominator is 60. A lot of times 60 has been our least common denominator. That's just sort of a fluke. So remember, we want to extend our fraction bar so we can figure out what to multiply top and bottom by in each case. So we've got 20 times 3 and 9 times 3. That gives you 27. And for the 12, I got to multiply by 5, right? And so that's going to be 35. So what does that give me? Well, 60ths. But 27 and 35 is 62. It's kind of like that last problem, not reduced. Let's reduce it first. Divide the top and bottom by 2. 31/30. That's an okay answer. Or change it to a mixed number. And of course, you could have changed 62/60 to a mixed number first and then reduced the fraction as well. Okay, the next video will have more problems. We're just going to add to the types of adding with uncommon denominators.